how I help retailers thrive. What I found was we always do an assessment to understand their pain points and where they need to make improvements for their business. And inevitably, no matter what size or type of retailer it was always these 7 areas that always came up as having issues time and time again.
But before we begin, a quick shout out to our partner, ImShop. This company creates the best out-of-the-box mobile app solution for retail and e-commerce. They are cost-effective, fast-start omni-channel solution with open integrations. I worked with them and I can assure the quality. imshop.io. The link will be in the description below. So now back to the interview. Hello, Flora.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Very good. I'm excited for this interview.
Thank you very much for finding time for us, and actually welcome to the Digital Voice.
Thank you.
So for those who are listening and viewing us right now on YouTube and don't know you, can you please do a little brief introduction about who you are and what you're doing?
Sure. My name is Flora Delaney, and I'm the president of Delaney Consulting, a retail-focused consulting firm, which I've run since 2005. And before that, I have been a retail executive, primarily with Best Buy and with U.S. grocers, as well as European grocer Ahold here in the U.S. My focus has always been on merchandising, but that includes everything from pricing and promotions to marketing research, buying. I've had all of those kinds of experiences as a retailer. And then since 2005, Delaney Consulting has really been focused on working with retailers and their vendor partners to help build a better retail experience for their customers. Primarily when retailers need to kind of transform or reinvent their brand, that's when I typically work with retailers.
That's great. And as far as I know, you have a book that came out a couple of years ago.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. In 2019, I wrote a book called Retail, the Second Oldest Profession. It's about the 7 timeless principles of succeeding in retail. And it's my hypothesis that if you can focus on these 7 timeless principles in retail, no matter what kind of retailer you are, no matter what kind of retail you're doing, whether that's brick and mortar or e-commerce, you will succeed. And it's by focusing on those 7 timeless principles that the best retailers and the best retail executives have the most successful careers.
Wow, that sounds exciting. But at the same moment, why only 7? It looks like retailers are juggling hundreds of different points to get to a success. Why only 7?
Exactly. In fact, that's why, in part, I wrote the book, is it does feel like there's dozens and dozens of things to focus in on when you're a retailer. And look, I didn't start off thinking, oh, there's going to be 7. I didn't know if there was going to be 5 or 15 or what it was. But when I got down to it, and I started to think about how I work in my job and how I help retailers thrive, what I found was we always do an assessment to understand their pain points and where they need to make improvements for their business. And inevitably, no matter what size or type of retailer it was always these 7 areas that always came up as having issues time and time again. And so, that started to feel to me like, okay, there's definitely themes here. And, you could argue that there's more than 7 principles. For example, in my book, I don't pull out supply chain as its own timeless principle. And you might say, oh, but retailers need to understand supply chain. And I would say, yes, but so does manufacturing. So does a lot, restaurants, a lot of different industries need to understand supply chain. It's not specific necessarily to retail. Same thing with accounting, right? You've got to do accounting, but it's not specific for retail. So what I did was say, there are some very specific things about retail in these 7 timeless principles that I really wanted to focus on. And, I did want to help retailers start to think about how do they focus on something? So take marketing, right? There's so many nuances and tactics for marketing, but at its core, what marketing does in retail is either invite customers to shop or welcome them back when they return. That's it. And you can say, oh, well, I'm doing that with text. I'm doing that with Instagram. I'm doing that with email campaigns. I'm doing that with radio marketing. I'm doing that, in a guerrilla marketing campaign. But at the end of the day, you're either asking someone to come and visit and shop in your store, or you're saying, come back and shop again. That's it. So that's why I really said, there's some very basic things here. And what store managers and people at the very top levels of corporations kept saying to me was, I need something to help my people see how everything fits together in retail. Because too many of my talented employees only see retail from their perspective. They only understand pricing, or they only understand merchandising, or they only understand operations, but they don't see how the whole picture is supposed to work together. And one of my favorite sayings is, if your only tool is a hammer, then every problem looks like a nail. And so it really was at the request of some of the upper executives that I was working with that I wrote the book, so that there could be a way for them to understand that if you specialize in loss prevention or pricing or talent management, in your toolkit revolved around those things, how to become more of a generalist so that you could connect the dots across all the key areas. And to me, those key areas were these 7 fundamental principles. And that's why I
Wow.
wrote the book. I hope it helps both younger, less experienced people be successful in retail and understand these 7 principles. And that it will help people who are perhaps further along in their career remember a little bit more, because you can get very specialized and very focused on what it is you and your function does. And remember that there's these other parts that fit together that make a successful retail experience for your customers. Really long-winded way of saying how I came to have 7.
Yeah, but that makes sense. But on the same moment, everybody who are listening and viewing us right now, I guess, are dying to know what are these 7 principles and what are the 7 areas, so to speak, of the retail business which are main for retail. Can we
Sure,
briefly go through them just to give the understanding?
sure. So there are 7 principles, and I will actually list them primarily in order. So to me, the first and most critical piece is strategy. A retailer has to have a strategy that they can deliver, right? They have to stay unswervingly focused on that strategy to stay meaningful in their market. And they have to be able to defend that strategy. So here in the US, what is Walmart's strategy? Price. Always the low price. It's literally what they say. Our strategy is price, right? What is Amazon's strategy? Amazon's strategy is the widest selection, everything you could possibly want. They're all about assortment, added in with convenience, and getting it delivered. But those are its strategies. And there are, some specific strategies, and we can talk about that in a little bit, but everything emanates from the strategy. So the retailer must have a strong sense of what is its strategy, how does it deliver, and how does it make every one of its decisions based on that strategy. The second principle, and one that is very near and dear to my heart, is customer service. So every retailer has to have some respect for customer service, and they have to deliver an experience to their customer that respects their customer, that cherishes their customer, appreciates them, and puts customers at the center of their operations. I say retailers who sell suck, and retailers who solve problems and do it better than anyone else build dynasties. And what I find in working with retailers is, for retailers who struggle, there is almost always a deficiency in customer service. So that's the second principle. The third principle is merchandising. And merchandising is my personal passion, because to me, selecting products, showcasing them in the most attractive fashion possible, and helping customers make decisions about which product will most meet their needs, is a consuming drive for really great retailers. It's why we do what we do. We put things in front of customers and allow them to have a choice and a selection that makes the customer feel good, hopefully, about what they've decided on. And so going into the marketplace, sourcing products and selecting a curated assortment so that your shoppers are inspired, is what keeps a store vibrant and alive. It's what makes shopping, for some people, their hobby. They like to shop. They enjoy shopping. And part of that is because retailers have done a fabulous job of showing them products and giving them options, and they like to have that. The fourth timeless principle is pricing. And while everybody has pricing, right? Dentists have pricing, car dealerships have pricing, everybody prices. For retailers, pricing is one of the central things you must get right. And you must get it right all the time. Here in the United States, there's regulations. You must have your pricing precise to the penny. And that kind of precision requires some real focus from retailers. And it's why it can be really super geeky for most people. There's a lot of PhDs out there who will create algorithms and give you the right price. And it's probably the one fundamental principle that I would say is most likely to be resolved with data and AI, right? So this is the place where you can really dig in with really tremendous technology and deliver something incredible. And yet, most retailers are not really doing that in creating their everyday and promotional pricing. And I am always surprised by the practice of habitual pricing, right? So habitual pricing is, last year at Christmas, I had a sweater for $19.99. And this year for Christmas, I'm going to have a sweater for $19.99. I might change the quality, but I'm going to have a $19.99 sweater. And that kind of habitual pricing is really an opportunity. And if retailers get better at pricing, they can almost always find several crucial points of margin to keep them alive during tough times. So I think pricing is one of those things that really is a lifeblood for retailers. My fifth principle is marketing. And, like I said, for me, the most basic roles of retail marketing is inviting people to shop, and then welcoming them back, recognizing them. And that can be like in reality, in a real shop where I know you come to visit me every 2 weeks to buy your tomatoes and your steak and your bread. And I recognize you and I say hello to you. Or it could be through technology, right? Where I text you and I have a text system and I email you and I invite you back. And I can still make you feel like I recognize you and remember you, right? One of my favorites is here in the United States. If you are with PetSmart or Petco, these big pet superstores, you tell them the name of your dog and when your dog's birthday is, and then your dog will get a birthday card with a coupon inviting them back to come and pick up a toy. Those kinds of things, even though they're automated, still is a marketing that makes a customer feel like you recognize them as an individual. The fifth is managing. And, managing is something every industry has to do, but retail is brutal in turnover. It is the kind of industry where people come in, they're working maybe right out of school, maybe still in high school, they get a job in a store and they quit, and you're constantly turning over people. And so being great at managing people at retail is really, really difficult. It is a precise kind of focus that if you build a prosperous team that you literally trust with keeping the store while you're gone, that is what you're trying to do. And for most of us, I don't know about you, but most of us started off in high school working in retail for the very first time. And so it's the first time you get to like be in the world of adults and adult responsibility. The first time you either start to learn that you're part of a team. And when you're part of a team, it kind of feels good when you're winning, when you're making sales and you're putting stuff out and you're having fun, but still getting the job done. Or it's the first time that you really start to see, I don't like to do this. And so most people want to try to at least create a good experience for those young people who are coming in. And, it's the first time you start to learn about keeping score as an adult in a career. Like if you work in a store, if you work in a shop, how quickly you turned your orders and fulfilled your orders and shipped them out to the store, to the customers, or else, just how much did you do during your shift? Those all becomes ways of keeping a score, feeling like you're on a team and enjoying that experience, hopefully. And then the final fundamental principle is really operations. And operations is interesting in retail because it's almost always where the introverts tend to focus. These are the folks who like to run the store as efficiently as possible. These are the people who are receiving goods in the back, putting them where they belong, pushing them out to the floor, churning through inventory, going over reports, doing loss prevention, doing inventory control. And these are people who are eliminating the surprises. If it's done right, your retail store should not be surprising you in bad ways or good ways. You should have a sense of where you're going. And so I think that for people who love operations, they love operations. You'll see a lot of people who will say, I don't want to work on the sales floor. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sell. They like to be not seen, but they still want to contribute. And I think for retailers, if you don't get operations right, you will not stay in business long. You must get operations right. And so those are my 7 principles. It's strategy. It's customer service, merchandising, pricing, marketing, managing, and operations.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And actually, when you hear about it, it covers almost everything, right? When you think about the actual retail, how it works. So what I'm interested in, because, I'm from digital and our podcast is called the Digital Voice. So you're calling this the 7 timeless principles. So timeless means that we are living in a time of a digital transformation, if you will. How does those 7 principles withstand to the digital times? Are they really timeless, and you can actually use those principles and use the skill set needed in this times of a digital transformation? What do you think?
I do think so. I think digital is just another tactic for retailing. Digital gives you different tools, gives you different channels, gives you different ways to communicate both with your vendors as well as with your customers and deliver an experience. But at the end of the day, it is still the same principles behind those tactics. You still have to have a strategy. You still have to have great customer service and merchandising and competitive pricing. All of those things you still must deliver. It's just translated into a different kind of eco environment that's more focused on how you're doing that digitally.
Okay, great. So let's maybe try to speak about all of those 7 principles, but from the perspective of the digital transformation. If we take
Sure.
first the core thing, the strategy, what's your approach about the retail strategy when you have those big marketplaces and direct to consumer brands that are selling online? What should retailers do? How should they approach their strategy?
Well, at the end of the day, strategy is still consistency, and it's knowing who you are and who you're not, right? So if your strategy is the best customer service in the market and you're going to deliver that, you need to align on that from top to bottom. And so that means you're going to, whether you're digitally delivering your experience and delivering your shoppers their orders, you're still going to need to do the right thing in terms of making sure your people are well trained, are empowered to make the best decisions they can for the customer, and that they understand that they will always take steps to make their customers happy. And if you compare that to if your strategy is the lowest prices in the market, then you're probably not going to worry about making sure you've got really highly trained people. Instead, you're going to deliver tools and technology to allow you to put maximum throughput in your system with the lowest cost, holding down costs at all times so that you can deliver your customers the lowest price. So it's really about understanding with your strategy who you are and who you're not. And when retailers lose their way, it's because they say, oh, well, I want to offer the best customer service and the lowest prices and the widest range of products and the most convenient hours or best delivery system. And I want to have, and everything, best experience, because you can't make your decisions that way and actually succeed in retail. You have to decide who you are, what you stand for, and then be consistent with that all the time. So as marketplaces change, as direct-to-consumer brands start to put new pressures on retailers, what's critical is that the retailer stays true to their core strategy and continues to find ways to, delight their shoppers and with whatever their focus is. If it's the in-store experience, if it's the freshest product, if it's delivery in an hour, whatever they have to do, retailers have really always been in the thick of competition. Retailers have always competed back for hundreds of years. There's been competition. And, the marketplaces, direct to consumer brands, new channels, those are just more competition and the same competition for the same customers' minds and wallets, right? So it's just raising up the volume of the competition, but it really truly shouldn't change. And as a retailer, you shouldn't change your strategy. Strategy has to be something you always stay with.
So you can actually argue that what you call strategy has a lot to do with brand, right? So
Oh,
if
sure.
you if you are that type of brand where you have a sort of experience or you have a sort of a unique product or unique value proposition for the client, you're not afraid of any marketplaces or direct to consumer brand or whatever because, like I don't know. What was the Whole Foods, right? Was the
Yes,
chain that was actually acquired by Amazon. So
that's
they
right.
had a unique advantage. They had the freshest products. You can argue that one of the most high end product lines, and this is the unique experience that they gave to their audience. And well, you could live up to all of those marketplaces, or worst case scenario, can be acquired by the marketplaces because it doesn't make sense to put up the same brand and make the same brand by the marketplace. It's not what they're good at.
Absolutely. Strategy and brand go hand in hand. And it's one of the things that I will say, like, if you're Nordstrom's, which is a very high end retailer here, you don't compete with Walmart. You don't care what Walmart does. That's not your competition. And while that's a very obvious example, it should be that way for all retailers. You need to understand who you are and who you're not so that you don't react to every single change in the marketplace that may or may not impact your business and be meaningful to your customers. If you know who your customers are and you serve them well, you can be less concerned about every single small move in the marketplace because you know what you're delivering.
Sure, and this is actually a very good reality check for the brands out there who are asking themselves, "Oh, what should we do with all of those Amazons, and AliExpresses, and Alibabas? ruining our business. If they can ruin your business, actually, then you have something wrong with your branding and something wrong with your business.
Absolutely. And that's why when I do talk to retailers who are concerned about that, they all are. But when they're overly concerned about it, I always talk about the one timeless principle that they could lean into that those customers they can't, and that's customer service. Because
Well,
you get a
that's
lot.
great that you mentioned this, because this is obviously the second question.
Oh,
How does the customer service change in this reality? What are the basic principles that you should lean into in terms of customer service to win the clients nowadays?
so, I'm a very simple person. I tend to distill things down to like very easy things to understand. And proper customer service is really just like treating the customer as an individual that you cherish and respect. You know, if you cherish and respect a person, you greet them by name. And no, you may not know your thousands or millions of customers, but if you have them in your email database, you can say, dear Flora and not dear first name, which I have seen very badly done, right? So you greet them by name. You make sure their needs are being taken care of. So thinking about, well, how do I take care of my customers' needs? If they're coming into a marketplace, and let's say I'm selling technology, let's say I'm selling phones or laptop computers or something, that's not something people buy every day. That's not something they buy every week. And for most shoppers, they're going to need to have some kind of a guide to help them figure out what they need. So putting that out there, that can be in technology where you literally take them through kind of their decision tree about, how do they plan to use their phone? What do they like to do with it? Where will they be going? Do they already have a carrier and a plan? You can start to take them through and then find them and help recommend, even digitally, what is their best options. So being smart, being friendly, being helpful, those are all things that are, at the end of the day, at the core of being good at customer service. So those things are always the same. Um, you think about building loyalty, and if I can link us back to strategy and brand, it means being authentic, being who you really are as a brand, and then hiring people and presenting yourself, even in the words that you use, even in the way that you talk to your customers. If you're a formal brand, if you're authentically very formal, very high end, then you're going to keep that all the way through. If at the end of the day you're very down to earth, you're homemade, you're very rugged, then you should be authentically that way all the way through. That is the customer service they expect. So if I walk into, there are these stores here in the United States called fleet farms. And what they're made for, they're out in the rural country, and they're made for farmers, and they're made for outdoors people, hunters, fishermen, people who go out in the woods a lot, right? When I walk into that store, it doesn't bother me that the floors are dirty. It doesn't bother me that, things are a little messy, because it feels really authentic to who the people are who are shopping in those stores. But if I were to walk into Cartier or Tiffany and the floors were dirty, I mean, heavens, that would be like really something, So being authentic, your customers will appreciate you. Nobody likes a fake. And, in the world that we live in, when we get, especially this time of year, hundreds of offers in our inbox, it's obvious when a retailer is sort of being fake and saying they're looking out for your best interest when you really haven't heard from them all year, or they've got something to show you. You've had a bad experience with their product in the past, and now they tell you that they're a world class, bringing you only the best. You will immediately break that authenticity, that trust, and that loyalty.
Sure, or they're very keen with sustainability, but at the same moment, they're sending you lots and lots of plastic packages
A
with
perfect
your delivery.
example, right? So, if you're truly a sustainable retailer, here in the United States at Target, if you go to Target and you bring your own bags, for every bag that you bring, they give you 5 cents off of your bill. I mean, that really says we want to pay you. We're willing to say, yes, we want you to bring in your own bags, reuse. We don't want to send you home with plastic bags.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, if we move on, and the third principle is merchandising. And
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, you have numerous possibilities like endless aisles, digital store solutions, and stuff like this that could help you to actually bring the digital into the merchandising experience. What do you think about this? How does that help?
Well, I think the endless aisle as a concept is tremendous in allowing customers and shoppers to have access to every configuration or every color of an item. And as an inventory person, I love that because I don't actually have to make sure every size, every color is in stock in every store. But I do think that that idea of endless aisle is difficult to master in physical stores because it almost always requires a store associate to help customers complete their orders or remind them how to do it. I don't think yet it's natural for shoppers to be in a store, see black, white, and yellow, and wish there was blue and immediately think, oh, I bet I can go online and get the blue. They don't think about that. And so, I think about Best Buy here in the United States. It does endless aisle almost entirely with all of its larger goods, its appliances, its TVs, printers, what have you. There's only one working demo model in the store. And then once you say, oh, I would like to buy this refrigerator, it's not there. They go, a store team member actually places the online order for you. And that's when you find out, would you like it in black? Would you like it in white? Would you like it in stainless? Do you want the refrigerator on the top or on the bottom? All your different options are offered to you there. And I think if we return to strategy and if like convenience is your main goal, well, I'm not sure the endless aisle is very convenient for the shopper who wants a solution immediately. And honestly, with today's supply chain issues, customers are making different choices and weighing stock and inventory or in stock inventory ahead of maybe getting exactly what they want, but it's for an undefined amount of time, right? Because right now, it's so difficult because the endless aisle and showrooming with just in time inventory stock is actually a risky business model at the moment because you're not able to say, I can get you that exact chair with that exact material in 3 weeks. We can't do that any longer. Most stores right now are saying, well, I can get you that, but I'm not sure when it's going to come in. And so endless aisle is great if your customers are willing to postpone their gratification of actually having that item. Um, and I do think that it will change the way we have to merchandise in stores. I think we will see more and more stores starting to put, I don't like the word kiosks, but the idea of putting a solution right there at the store to say, here's how to look at the other items you may want that we don't have in this particular store at this moment, and you can order them. And frankly, if it's things that are in the market, it's just not at your particular store, you could place an order, and by the time you get home, it will already be there. So I think a lot of retailers are working towards that. The idea of looking at an entire metro area's inventory as inventory available to any shopper at any time for, delivery, let's say within an hour. And obviously, this is in the more populated metro areas. That's not going to work in the United States where we have large areas that are far from many towns. But, even something as simple as like, Office Depot, Office Max here in the United States. Um, if you order office supplies, some of the stores are guaranteeing you will get it within an hour delivered. So if you run out of ink or you run out of paper or anything like that, you will have it in an hour. I mean, that idea of endless aisle is tremendous.
Yeah, that's very interesting. But It's so fascinating that we heard about this endless aisle technology for years and years already, but yet there is no example of, I don't know, Nike or Adidas or any huge brand that actually was successful in this. We can see that in Nike flagship store. They have, I don't know, what, three, four levels of experience, but at the same
Yes.
moment, if that was a very very successful experience, what holds from using this experience in smaller stores nationwide, and they're not doing this because obviously this is not there yet. So the customer willing to hold something in their hands and, as you said, get the instant gratification. So this is probably the main point that holds you back from implementing this, right?
Well, you have to understand that endless aisle, that inventory has to be somewhere. And it's all about who is going to sit on the inventory, who's going to own the inventory and hold it while it remains until it gets sold. And so retailers, if they make that choice, will suddenly bloat their inventory. Their turns will go up and they will have real problems. They'll have to do closeouts and markdowns, and they can't hold the inventory. So, what they're trying to do is push it to the vendor and say, well, I will place my order with you. When my customer makes an order, I will place that order with you. You'll ship it to the customer. We'll all participate in that. Well, that's very well and good if the vendor is willing to sit on the inventory and hold that inventory while it remains unsold. And they don't like to do that either. Everybody wants just in time inventory, everybody wants to increase their throughput. And an endless aisle suggests that somehow you're able to forecast what customers are going to buy. Someone needs to forecast it so that they can produce it. And, Nike's willing to do that because it owns the whole vertical top and bottom. And it knows that if it doesn't sell it in the stores or it doesn't sell it through its American.com, well, then they can always push that inventory somewhere else in the globe and it will sell somewhere else at a discount. So it's very rare, I think. No one wants to make all of the different colors of Smeg refrigerators and just wait for customers who might want to buy the turquoise one or the red one. Nobody wants to sit on that inventory. White, yes. Black, yes. Red, turquoise, yellow, maybe not. So it's all about thinking about where's that inventory going to be staged along the supply chain. And for a lot of folks, they want to push it all the way back to I'll produce it as it gets ordered. And in a well-running logistical global system, that's great. I'll produce it in Asia. I will get it over to the Americas or Europe in a matter of 2 weeks. But now that 2 weeks has turned into 2 months, 4 months, and there's real problems with that concept.
Sure, yeah. So it flies pretty good for the products that are sort of a bigger buy, if you will. But at the same moment, if it's something like a fashion, it might suffer. But still, I think that there are lots of possibilities how this can evolve, and it's very very interesting and fascinating to look at it because from the pandemic, what we see is people are more and more receptive to all of the digital technologies and actually interacting with the delivery and with the pickup locations, and I think it's getting there, and there is just too much of savings in having this endless aisle because you actually can have a smaller shop with less inventory and it could be more agile, and it's very very tempting for the retailers, I guess. Okay, so the next thing is, of course, pricing. Well,
Mhm.
pricing is a very interesting point because it's super vital for the retailers and for the product. You explained why, but at the same moment, today's shopper has the ability to see all of the prices in this small device here, right? They always have
Sure.
it in their hands. They can compare any prices. They can use Amazon. They can use other retailers and compare prices. So, how did the retailers approach this dilemma here? And is there a dilemma?
There is a dilemma if The only way you think you can sell product is if you have the lowest price. And honestly, the lowest price is not the way to build a loyal customer, because there will always be someone who can get their prices lower. There will always be someone with deeper pockets than you do, or somebody willing to sell something at a loss. And so if you think that the only way that you can keep loyal customers is through the lowest price possible, it's really not going to be very long-lived. You have to focus on more than price in our competitive market. And pricing, of course, is a focus for retailers and customers. And most shops and most stores proudly state that their products offer the same quality for a lower price than their competition. And while that might be true, most of the time, a pure price focus is a dangerous marketing position for any retailer. And like I said, a shop that focuses on price can always be beaten. And so savvy retailers combine a low price value proposition with another key strategic point of differentiation. So maybe it's, in the case of Walmart here in the United States, it's that it is a low price and a very wide range of products and selection, right? But they don't go deep in anything. They're very, very, you will find 3 or 4 options of everything. But if you want a beautiful, like prosciutto, right? You want this really nice Italian, beautifully cut smoked ham. You're not going to find that at Walmart. They offer a wide range, but they don't offer a deep range. So, think about pricing. If I go to an Italian specialty supermarket where all they carry are these wonderful products that they've imported from Italy, well, they might have low prices on a few things, like maybe the pasta, but not on everything, not on the sweets, not on the sauces, maybe not on the olive oil, different things like that. So you should always combine your value proposition of your pricing with something else. So, really, you can't have every single low price. You can have a policy and you can have fair pricing. So by fair pricing, I mean, explain to your customers why their price is what it is. We offer this price because we are raising the wages of our employees, or we are paying for benefits, or we provide charitable donations to the local community. All of those things will help people understand why their price may not be the lowest on everything. And the other important thing about pricing is you must know what are the items that people truly price shop and what are the items that are blind. What are the items that shoppers will purchase without really comparing every single price on every single item? Nobody does that, really. Yes, I care how much I pay for that TV, and I want to get the lowest price on the TV. I might not shop the price for the cables that I attach to the TV. So, there might be a way to make up a bundle pack of the TV plus the cables at a price that kind of masks what the pricing truly is. And retailers do that all the time, right? They do that all the time with it, creating a special pack, a back to school pack, where maybe I couldn't get the great price on a backpack that I wanted to get. So I can't offer you a cheap $5 backpack, but I can get you the backpack, the pencils, the paper, the markers, and a box of tissues, and put that together and say that whole pack is $20. So there's a lot of ways to put blended pricing together, to look for those key items, the known priced items. In the US, known priced items are things like a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, a pound of hamburger, a pound of bananas. People know what they should pay for those. But you can't really go to them and say, well, how much would you expect to pay for a package of chocolate chips? They probably haven't bought chocolate chips in a while. They're not really sure. So you want to be really sharp on those prices of the things that really matter. Those you need to be competitive with. And then you can take those other items, those blind items, and you can make up some of your margin there.
That's a very very smart thing, and bundling a fantastic way to actually get your volume of your margin on point without actually sacrificing any
You
margin
know,
on the product.
one of the things I want to mention is retailers are always struggling with whether or not they should match prices that customers hold up their phone and say, I can get this product for cheaper online, right? That happens all the time. And it is important for retailers to make a decision about which of those prices they'll match or beat, and which of the times they're going to tell the customer, then if that's the only reason you want to purchase that, that's the better deal, and invite them to make a purchase from your customer. So here's an example. Let's say that I am purchasing laundry detergent from Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble gives pretty much everybody the same price on their laundry detergent. Let's say it's $11. And so I put it in my shop for $14.99. Well, a customer comes along to me and shows me on this phone that he can buy that product for $9.99 at a competitor. That competitor is losing money. I would like him to go buy that product from that competitor because that competitor is going to lose $2. Like, please go buy that from that competitor. So there are times when you should not follow the competition and try to match that price.
I guess that it works perfectly with fast moving consumer goods. It might be a little bit different for the purchases that customers are doing for a longer period of time, like, I don't know, electronics or fashion, because you want that customer, or you're losing part of the market share, you could say. But at the same moment, you need to pick your battles, right? So this is again more to a question of a strategy and branding and everything. It's very
Yeah,
interesting
I
how we're
hate to
getting back to it,
recommend I hate to recommend another book that's not mine, but honestly, there's a book called Angel Customers, Demon Customers that's really important, talking about this, to say not all your customers are profitable. And you need to understand if you're serving an unprofitable customer.
Yeah, but that's very, very interesting. Okay, so the next thing is marketing. Obviously, marketing is a huge deal nowadays, and there is like an idea of actually using your retail location, using your retail store as a media and marketing location, like a place where you can measure the number of impressions that you get, not only the traffic, not only the conversion, but actually the amount of impressions that you would get, like from a digital marketing campaign. What do you think about this idea, and how the retailers should consider working with it?
At the end of the day, we're really talking about the store and the store experience and what does that store mean, right? And for marketing a store, many more retailers now are making sure that they're offering a beautiful location, an Instagrammable location in their store so that they've got people coming in willing to do that. REI to me has been doing this for years. It's an outdoor store here in the US, and they have a giant rock wall about 4 stories tall that you can climb the rock wall while you go shopping for your outdoor gear. And, I think people have been doing that for quite a while. I think retailers, I think it's interesting that pure play retailers are starting to now open stores, which I find really interesting.
You mean like pure online?
Yeah, ModCloth. Amazon now has their Amazon 4-star stores, and they're actually opening stores. Amazon opening bookstores, which I think is incredibly ironic, since they started as a bookstore and put all the bookstores out of business, and now they're opening bookstores. So I think it's interesting that retailers who are pure plays are starting to do that. Also, here, what we're starting to see is incredible understanding that what a retailer is actually delivering maybe more than just a shopping experience, but delivering customers that want to have an impression, right? So now there's a very successful grocer here called Hy-Vee that has started to put a DSW shoe store in its grocery store, so that it's saying, listen, I've got the moms, they're coming in to buy their groceries, why not also sell them their children's shoes at the same time? Kroger just announced 2 weeks ago that Bed Bath and Beyond is going to now be in their stores. So I think that what's happening is stores are starting to figure out that they are meccas, gathering places for a very specific demographic that's very attractive to others. And so maybe they should start thinking about their stores as being maybe a little less sacred and only theirs, and opening up a little bit broader to what they could offer their customers and who else can participate in satisfying those customers.
That's a fascinating idea, and I've been, fascinated with this idea for a very, very long time. Because if you think about the amount of customers that the good retailer, like a big chain of retail, has, and they know a lot of these customers, you can actually predict who these customers are from the brand that they are buying from. And all of the brands already have all of the information and all of the traffic and all of the views from the customers. And it's only a matter of, and online brands have been doing this for a long time, if not in the retail space, like in an e-commerce space, then they did it for their Instagram collaborations or social media collaborations. So this is not a new phenomenon. It's very, very interesting that it is coming to a physical retail, brick and mortar. And I guess that this could be very modern and new trend to set. Okay. So the next question is, of course, the staff. If we're speaking about the endless aisle, if we're speaking about all of those technologies and different ways of using the brick and mortar location, the people who are working in the shops, and you said that there are teenagers working there, only starting their careers. There are all sorts of different people working there. Do you need to have a new way of actually educating the staff, or what new approach do you need to have for the staff in this new digital transformation era, where nothing is changing and you can relax and nothing is happening there?
Well, you never can relax in retail, but I would argue that really it doesn't change. That customer service, friendliness, helpfulness, being well educated on the products that you're selling so that if someone asks you a question, you can answer that question. All of those things remain the same. By the way, I want to make sure that your listeners know that I would like to offer them, customer service is so important to me. I'd like to offer them a free chapter of my book. So if they go to floradelaney.com/smart retailer, they can download the free chapter on customer service. I do think it is still always the same. It's good teamwork, it's good communication, a genuine desire to help their customers get what they want. And all the new technology, sure, they're going to have to maybe learn a new tool. Maybe you're going to give them things they didn't have before on an iPad, on their phone, or some other way. I remember when everybody got the earphones, so they could talk to people in the back room and all that. You might be giving them some new tools to accomplish those things. But at the end of the day, you still need to, I always say, hire for attitude and train for skills. So as long as you hire the right people, people who like people, who don't mind helping people, talking to strangers, smile, things that are just very basic, then you can teach them, here's how to do this transaction, here's how to take care of things, here's how to place an order online. Any of that can be taught. You can't teach someone to be friendly,
Well, first of all, we'll make sure that the link is in the description. So please go into the description of the video. You will get the link and download the free chapter of the book. And then, of course, go to the Amazon and buy the book.
Well, naturally, yes.
Obviously. But get your free one first, so you get the sample of how good it is. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. That really the main principles of hospitality and actually being a friendly human being and stays the same. The technology might be different, but if we're speaking about the younger generation working in the stores, I guess that they can teach somebody themselves how to work with the iPad or any other
Right.
technology, right?
Yeah.
So the last principle is operations, and this is something that seems very, very important. Like this could, if you do everything else correct, but you fail on the operations side, you won't have the product, you won't have the price tags, you won't have the necessary stuff to actually run your business, right? So I guess that we can take a little bit of different approach. And can you please take us through some of the main mistakes you can do, or mistakes that you should avoid when dealing with this operational part from your experience?
Operations is about discipline and consistency. And so, to the degree that people get lax about how they do things, operations is how you do things. How do you receive goods? How do you place orders? How do you make a forecast? How do you place things out on the shelves? How do you mark down, the closeout goods at the end of the season? Operations is about how. And so you need to have a process that's known and that you follow every single time. It's discipline and holding yourselves accountable to doing that. Accountability is where people go wrong. They have it written down. They trained people years ago when they first started on their first week at the job how to do something, but they don't do it all the time. And it gets lazier and lazier, and they take shortcuts. And before you know it, you have an inventory control problem. You don't know where your product is. You have losses and shrink that you can't account for. Or you've got products that you're selling lower than you ought to be selling them because you didn't change the price after the promotion. There's all kinds of things that are detrimental that happens when you don't follow operational disciplines. And so it's really about accountability. You have to have managers who inspect all the time, have high expectations, and are unwavering in those expectations. So, whenever I see whatever is troubling at a retailer, if it's inventory control, if people not showing up on time for their shifts, correcting that problem nearly always begins with a management team that holds itself accountable. And it requires a group of store leaders to agree that they're going to support one another and focus on a problem. So once they start holding themselves accountable, then they can start working on how to make process improvements or train the team more thoroughly. But it always begins with discipline and consistently adhering to a process every day by every team member. And it's hard and it seems really dull to like, oh, that sounds like so awful, but it's what the best operators do. When you try to figure out how does Walmart deliver those prices? How does Amazon deliver those products so quickly from everywhere? How is it done so seamlessly? It's because they adhere to processes every single time. So, I mean, that's really what it takes to be a great operator. Once you start doing that, yeah, you're going to dig in and find some ways that you should probably shave off some time or some steps or make things more efficient. You can always do that, but you've got to start by holding yourself accountable.
Thank you very much, first of all, for all this wisdom, because I guess that this is so fundamental, and it's very interesting how we went through all of those points, and it really does make sense that technologies change. Yes, some of your tactics may change, but the whole main principles are staying the same. And if you don't know them, if you're not sticking to them, if you don't have answers to them, then you're in the then you have a problem. Not if you don't have the answer on how to address the particular category on the Amazon, or a particular promo code somewhere, or
Right.
a particular new fancy technology or stuff like this, or digital marketing campaign.
You're
So
absolutely right.
it can add up to these basics, but without them, um, you're off. The business is off with a better with a bad start, right?
It's easy in retail to be busy and not make progress. And so what
Yeah.
I wanted to do was make sure that people could get very focused on the things that will actually help them make progress and not just stay busy.
Thank you very much. We spend an hour. It seems like we spent 10 minutes because this is so much information and it's so very nicely packaged. So I guess
Oh,
that reading a book will be a fantastic experience. I know that I will go and download it. So you are listening and viewing should do the same thing.
thank you.
Thank you very much again. We'll keep in touch. And you
It
have
was
a
an absolute,
great holiday.
it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.